On this Tuesday night, the Prime Minister on the defensive.
I continue to be puzzled and obviously disappointed by her decision.
A high-profile minister resigns as a political storm surrounds Justin Trudeau.
There is more to the story.
At issue on today's political drama and what comes next.
Protesters fill the streets of Venezuela.
We have to do this for our country.
A country torn between two leaders.
This man, he won't leave the country.
Why neither side is backing down.
And El Chapo guilty.
Today's verdict is justice for the many thousands upon thousands of victims of overdose.
One of the world's most notorious drug lords finally faces justice. This is The National.
We begin tonight with that sudden and surprising resignation of Jody Wilson-Raybould from Cabinet. It comes after allegations the Prime Minister's office pressured her to help Quebec engineering giant SNC-Lavalin avoid criminal prosecution. And it's created a crisis for a government that champions openness and accountability. We'll look into how the departure of Canada's first Indigenous Justice Minister is playing out in First Nations communities and how it's playing for voters just 8 months before an election. But we begin with the timing and impact of Wilson-Raybould's stunning announcement just hours after the Prime Minister declared his confidence in her. Here's David Cochran.
Our government has approved thousands of projects.
A business-as-usual announcement on a not-so-usual day, where the backdrop of a bus can be interpreted in oh so many ways.
I am surprised and disappointed, and to be honest, don't entirely understand why Jody Wilson-Raybould made the decision she did.
Trudeau insists there was no wrongdoing, and if there were concerns, Wilson-Raybould never raised them.
It was her responsibility to come forward to me this past fall and highlight that directly to me. She did not. Nobody did.
Nevertheless, it's come to this. Less than a month after she was demoted, Wilson-Raybould has now departed Cabinet entirely. A body blow for a government that prides itself as a champion of women and Indigenous reconciliation. Her resignation letter gives no clear reason for quitting, but offers this statement. When I sought federal elected office, it was with the goal of implementing a positive and progressive vision of change on behalf of all Canadians and a different way of doing politics. Wilson-Raybould thanks many people in her letter. She makes no mention of the Prime Minister.
If it wasn't obvious before, Ms. Wilson-Raybould's resignation makes it crystal clear that Justin Trudeau is trying to hide the truth with regards to the SNC-Lavalin affair.
Scheer is demanding that the Prime Minister's office preserve all documents related to SNC-Lavalin and Jody Wilson-Raybould. The Ethics Commissioner is already investigating. The push now is for the Justice Committee to look into it, something the committee chair, who happens to be a Liberal, says he will support.
I am leaning towards the fact that the committee should investigate it. Canadians across the country are wondering, well, what the heck happened? She just resigned. She wouldn't confirm what he said.
But to get the answers the committee wants, the Prime Minister would have to waive solicitor-client privilege to let Wilson-Raybould talk. It's something he's seeking advice on, but says isn't simple to do.
There's a real danger that's been flagged for me of unintended consequences, particularly because there are 2 court cases ongoing directly related to this matter that could be impacted by such a decision we might make.
While Trudeau gets advice, so does Wilson-Raybould. For now, she remains silent, but she's hired retired Supreme Court Justice Thomas Cromwell to advise her on what she can say publicly in the future. So stay tuned. David Cochran, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now, Jody Wilson-Raybould was a star Liberal candidate in her Vancouver riding, and she brought an impressive resume as a former BC Crown prosecutor, Treaty Commissioner, and First Nations Regional Chief. It's a resume that swept the political rookie into Justin Trudeau's cabinet in 2015. But last month, she lost her job as Justice Minister, and today she gave up her job as Veterans Affairs Minister. Katie Simpson now on what went wrong for Jody Wilson-Raybould.
For an image-obsessed government, this picture is everything the Liberals want to stand for. But in the 3 years since, Jody Wilson-Raybould has gone from PMO poster child to its biggest worry.
Well, I use the word time bomb because this is such an unprecedented situation. The pin was released today, and we don't know what will happen.
Amid the uncertainty, there's one constant. Wilson-Raybould does not appear to be afraid to publicly criticize her political masters.
For my part, and to be very candid, I've been challenged. But I also challenge constantly.
In a series of speeches delivered in the fall, she questioned the government's handling of Indigenous issues.
Good morning.
And when she was demoted to Veterans Affairs in January, she published a 2,000-word statement, seemingly foreshadowing the current controversy. The Attorney General of Canada must be nonpartisan, more transparent, and, in this respect, always willing to speak truth to power.
This is Ontario Today.
Backlash against the Prime Minister has already begun.
I probably will never vote Liberal again.
Some callers to CBC Radio's Ontario Today are disappointed with what's transpired, including Alex Jameson, a member of the Six Nations community.
It crossed my mind that maybe she was used to promote an image of reconciliation, and then when she wasn't serving a purpose anymore, was then discarded.
Some Indigenous leaders are also concerned, especially after Wilson-Raybould was called difficult and self-centered by unnamed Liberal sources in the media.
And I think that First Nation people across Canada will remember this, and I believe that women voters across Canada will also remember how Jody Wilson-Raybould has been treated by this government.
The Liberals need the help of Indigenous and women voters to win another majority government. If this controversy drags on or gets worse, Justin Trudeau could lose credibility with both groups. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Ottawa.
After a day like today, we've decided to call in the At Issue gang a couple of days early. Chantal, Andrew, and Althea Raj are all here. Just one go-round, your assessment of whether any damage has been done by what occurred today. Chantal.
Damage for sure, within the caucus for sure, within cabinet. On the larger scale, who knows? Talking to you from a province where editorial opinion before today was massively on Justin Trudeau's side in this debate.
Andrew?
Editorial opinion elsewhere, not so massively on side with the government. I think the damage is potentially quite large because they are now into a long running, it would look like, fight with Jody Wilson-Raybould, in which there's going to be lawyers and courts and coverage, and none of it looks good on them.
Althea.
I think it's probably the most damaging, quote-unquote, scandal that we've had so far. It speaks to all of the issues the government kind of hung its brand on. Strong women, Indigenous advancement, reconciliation, open and transparent government. The fact that the government story keeps changing isn't helpful. And then you also have an ex-now cabinet minister with an axe to grind who wants to speak. So all potential for kind of chaos, 6 months out of this election.
Okay, so we've got a few things to discuss, and that's all coming up in about 20 minutes' time. Stick around for that. First, though, let's send it to Adrian in Venezuela, where the people made their voices heard again today. Adrian.
Since Venezuela became one country with, some say, two presidents, the would-be president for the opposition, Juan Guaido, has seen a surge of support from abroad, but at home, little in the way of actual change. Now, he's pushing for a breakthrough.
¡Que viva Venezuela!
There were opposition protests across the country today, the biggest in Caracas, where Guaido focused on his effort to bring in humanitarian aid. That aid remains stuck on the Colombian side of the border.
¡Leales siempre!
Now, across the border, at this bridge, already closed over a long, simmering political dispute, Venezuelan soldiers staged a demonstration of their own, determined to let nothing cross it. The country's vice president called Guaido's aid contaminated and carcinogenic.
Es cancerígena.
Quote, almost a biological weapon. Well, it's certainly a political weapon, and as events today make clear, Guaido is going to keep using it. At his rally here today, there was no sign Guaido and his supporters are letting up or changing course. Pressure is rising and patience is worn out.
It was at the last minute when the precise time and place for this day's protests in Venezuela were announced. But no matter, the biggest crowds, those in the opposition, ready to go anywhere. Students leading the way because this is Venezuela Youth Day. And this caps a month of protests. At each one, the pressure on Nicolas Maduro has been building. The feel of the crowds more confident.
So yes, there's energy here, there's enthusiasm, there's solidarity, there may even be momentum, but what's far from clear is whether any of this is enough to oust a leader who just does not want to go.
Among people who were maybe afraid to speak their mind not long ago, the comfort and cover of a crowd on the move.
I'm sure that we are going to get out of all this situation. All the humanity help is going to come in.
So how do you get out of this? What makes Venezuela get out of this?
By raising my voice, by supporting my effort, the efforts of my people.
So it's Venezuelans, it's not the outside world.
Exactly. It must be an effort made by us, Venezuelans.
A few meters on, another view entirely. This woman stopped us to say the man you just heard was wrong.
I really think that we need intervention, international intervention.
What is that?
Foreign intervention.
Is that American troops coming here?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. You know why? Because this man, he won't leave the country if they don't help us to take him out.
Perspective is everything. From the heights, this looks endless, but it's not. At the western end of the city, another world, the pro-Maduro rally. Smaller, but serious, and ever more convinced he should not be leaving. Our country has the ability to solve our problems by ourselves, this woman said. So it's not necessary for anyone to come here, because we're fine. And some in Venezuela are fine, legitimately fine. Those with means are fine. But they're the minority, as were the Maduro crowds. Back in the city's east, the volume rose, with Juan Guaido happily riding into the crush. To the stage to tally and thank the countries supporting him, to talk of ambassadors being appointed, and then to throw red meat to a lion, to announce he's promising more waves of humanitarian aid are coming to Venezuela's borders, regardless of what Nicolas Maduro says. He believes there's only one crossing, Guaido says. We say that we're going to offer another serving if you don't like the soup, and there will be a third and a fourth. Those words sound good to people in need, and he's declared February 23rd will be the day the aid comes in. But he can't promise that now. Between now and then, he has to convince the military to side with him on this point, not Maduro. Those reins are not yet loosened, and frustrations are building. This just a brief spasm of fury at the end of the rally. People raging at a thief who'd been caught stealing in the crowd. Just a flash in time, but it may say something bigger too. Maybe that people are tired of theft in Venezuela. Theft of their health, their wealth, and potential.
It's also a bit striking how the anti-Maduro graffiti seems to have spread in recent weeks. There was a time when you would only find it in select areas. Now it appears to be cropping up just about everywhere, and the question is, just how far will the government let this go?
One of the world's most infamous drug lords, nicknamed El Chapo, now faces life in prison. Mexico's Joaquin Guzman was found guilty in a U.S. court today on 10 criminal counts, including homicide, kidnapping, and trafficking massive amounts of heroin, cocaine, and other drugs. The 3-month trial reveals shocking details of a complex criminal operation. And as Ellen Morrow tells us, Guzman leaves behind a brutally violent legacy.
This was the raid that finally brought El Chapo to justice. And now the kingpin, real name Joaquin Guzman, will likely spend the rest of his life behind bars.
The jury found that Guzman led the Sinaloa cartel, one of the largest and most dangerous drug cartels in the world.
Guzman is Mexico's most infamous drug lord. His cartel, according to prosecutors, the biggest supplier of drugs to the U.S. In nearly 3 months of extraordinary testimony, often sounding more like a soap opera than real life, the jury heard how Guzman's operatives smuggled more than 200,000 kilograms of drugs through tunnels, on boats, in submarines, even in fake bananas. Witnesses also described gruesome murders carried out on Guzman's orders and alleged that Guzman drugged and raped girls as young as 13, calling them his vitamins.
today's verdict is justice. It's justice for the many thousands upon thousands of victims of overdose. It's justice for their families. It's justice for their friends, for their communities, for their towns, and for their cities.
Guzman is also accused of offering a $130 million bribe to Mexico's former president, Enrique Peña Nieto. Peña Nieto's former chief of staff denied the claim. Guzman has evaded prosecution for decades, escaping jail twice, once riding a motorcycle through this tunnel to freedom. His luck seems to have run out, but while law enforcement celebrates winning this battle, the Mexican drug war that has killed more than 100,000 people over the last decade rages on. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Washington.
Some of Canada's biggest cities, thousands of kilometers apart, have been slammed by massive winter storms. Extreme cold, freezing rain, snow, wind. Depending on where you are and who you ask, it's either a blessing or a cruel punishment.
Yeah, it's a bit cold and windy. The snow hurts a bit when you're walking through it.
I'm over it. Bring on the spring, I say. Too much, too heavy. I want summer.
It's a country of seasons, so this comes with it.
I like it. If it's going to be winter, I like there to be snow as well.
So we are building a snow fort and we made a snowman family.
I think it's beautiful and wonderful, but it's nice to be walking or tobogganing, maybe not driving.
No matter where in Canada you're watching tonight, chances are you're likely dealing with some sort of winter challenge. We asked 3 reporters to show us what it's like in their cities.
I'm Renee Filipponi in Vancouver, and I'm standing on Oak Street, one of the steeper streets in the city, and it's closed for a couple of blocks today because it's just too dangerous. People here are taking this snow day seriously, and it feels more like a weekend on the streets than it does a Tuesday. Between 10 and 30 centimeters has fallen across the south coast. School districts across the region are closed today, the first time in more than a decade for Vancouver. It appears many people followed their lead and are hunkering down at home. The chaos at bus and SkyTrain stations yesterday morning was replaced by calm and nearly empty buses. Road traffic during the commute, despite some accidents, was overall light. And it may take some time to clear streets like this, and that's because there are only about 50 snowplows in Vancouver. Compare that to Toronto with more than 600.
I'm Ron Charles in Toronto, where snow, wind, ice pellets, and now freezing rain forced the largest school board in Canada to declare its first snow day in 8 years, closing down schools like this one, leaving almost 250,000 students out for the day. Parents with flexible work hours could stay home with younger kids, even braving toboggan hills.
I don't know, I'm glad we had the day off. I'm not as young as I was though before. It's hard getting up the hill.
As for weather, these doors will be open tomorrow. The school board says it'll make that decision early in the morning when there's a better sense of the day's weather conditions.
I'm Alison Northcott in Montreal, where they already plan to have schools closed tomorrow. This is St. Catherine. It's normally a busy street, but as you can see, there are very few cars out tonight as people prepare for the worst of the storm. City officials are asking people to take public transit or to stay home.
I'm hunkering down. That's pretty much it. I live in an apartment, so I don't need to shovel or anything, but I'm not going to be outside. That's the main part of it.
What everyone really wants to avoid is what we saw here 2 years ago, when an accident during a winter storm left hundreds of drivers stranded on a Montreal highway overnight. The province says it has the resources in place to deal with this storm, which could be the biggest one we've seen here this season.
Still though, Rosemary, not unusual, I know, for Toronto and Montreal, but here we are getting snow like we haven't in a couple of years. It's beautiful, but it's a little challenging.
My sympathies, but it's nothing compared to here. I'm going to sleep here tonight. Ahead tonight on The National, there's so much for At Issue to tackle. Why did Jody Wilson-Raybould resign? What does it mean for the Prime Minister? Andrew, Chantal, Althea, back in a few minutes.
But first, it promises lower fees, but at what cost? The new company hoping to shake up Canada's real estate market.
And a little later, we'll take you to a controversial construction site in the heart of London.
Disturbing the dead for no particularly good reason. It's like discovering alcohol in a pub.
When it comes to buying or selling a home, most of us only know one way to do that: deal with a real estate agent and pay those commissions. But now, a U.S.-based company is hoping to disrupt Canada's housing market, saying they'll make the deal for you and save you money. But will that pitch work? Redfin is an online realty services company. It says it'll do all the things a traditional realtor does at a fraction of the price. Our Peter Armstrong joins us now with a closer look at who they are and what they're selling.
Well, Ian, their big pitch is savings, because as the price of a home in Canada shot up over the years, the corresponding fees, of course, have skyrocketed as well. On the average, $472,000 is the price of a Canadian home. Realtor fees are generally around $23,000. In the hotter markets like Vancouver, where the average home price is more than $1 million, those fees climb to nearly $51,000. So the allure of cutting those fees, that's no surprise. The hard part is going to be making it work. A nice detached home north of Toronto, a new roof, new countertops for a cool $1 million. But what sets this apart isn't the cost, it's the fee. Redfin is an American technology firm launching in Canada tonight, aiming to take on the mainstream giants of the real estate industry.
You can actually get full service plus for a reduced fee. It's not too good to be true.
Redfin's fee is just 1%. For that, you get a lawn sign, a sleek 3D video, professional photography, and agents who work for a salary instead of a cut. So, on a $750,000 home, normally the buying agent and the selling agent split a fee of about 5%. Redfin says it'll take just 1%, or $7,500. The buying agent still gets their usual cut, so on this transaction, the homeowner would save more than $11,000. CEO Glenn Kelman launched this company 13 years ago in the U.S., calling real estate the most screwed up industry in America. But even now, even as it expands, Redfin has yet to make a profit.
If you are making money on every real estate deal, but it's not enough to cover your overhead, and your customers love you, you just got to get more customers.
So the bet here, Ian, is that this company can expand, can get more customers, and carve a path out to profitability.
But Peter, they're promising lower fees. Is this a case of you get what you pay for?
Answering that question is the key for this company and every other one like it. I mean, they have to differentiate themselves from the agencies that do take those extra couple of points, and making sure that they are making a case that they are providing good value for money, but it's something different and something worth you breaking that cycle and trying out something new.
Peter Armstrong, thank you.
You bet.
Still ahead tonight on The National, she's been fighting for years to stay in Canada to care for her friend. Her moment of joy is our moment of the day.
Well, that sounds good. First, though, what's next for Jody Wilson-Raybould, the Prime Minister, and the SNC-Lavalin controversy? Time to go in depth with that issue. Chantal, Andrew, and Althea are back right after the break.
Well, Donald Trump still hasn't said tonight if he'll sign that compromise on border security that would prevent another U.S. government shutdown.
I'm not happy about it. It's not doing the trick. I don't think you're going to see a shutdown. I wouldn't want to go to it now. If you did have it, it's a Democrat's fault.
What we know so far from congressional aides is that the deal includes almost $1.4 billion to fund what they're describing as a barrier at the border, far less than the $5.7 billion the president has requested. We're expecting to learn more details tomorrow. To avoid another shutdown, any deal would need the president's signature by Friday. And the BBC is calling it an unacceptable attack on one of its camera operators. He was pushed by a Trump supporter at a rally last night in Texas. A campaign official says the man appeared to be drunk. The whole thing was captured on video.
I've reached the lowest level in the history. USA! The media! Media!
The camera operator was not seriously injured. In a statement, the White House says the president, quote, condemns all acts of violence against any individual or group of people, including members of the press. The BBC says it's asked the White House to look at a review of security at Trump rallies.
We get a brawl out of the center ice area.
Longer suspensions have been handed down after this brawl during a university hockey match in Nova Scotia. The player from Acadia who made the derogatory statement that sparked the brawl already had a 2-game suspension that's been bumped up to 7. 2 other players have already received stronger penalties, while the coaches from both St. Francis Xavier and Acadia have an extra 8 games added to their suspensions. And Toronto police have a message for the woman in this video. We know who you are. You should turn yourself in. The video of her throwing a chair from a high-rise in downtown Toronto surfaced online Saturday. Investigators say tips from the public helped them figure out who the woman is.
It was just 5 days ago that allegations appeared in the Globe and Mail that the Prime Minister's office had pressed Jody Wilson-Raybould to intervene in a criminal case involving SNC-Lavalin.
The allegations in the Globe story this morning are false.
The Prime Minister denied anyone in his office directed his then Attorney General to help the Quebec construction giant cut a plea deal and avoid a criminal trial on fraud and bribery charges.
I don't have any comment.
And were you pressured by PMO, ma'am? Anyone in PMO?
Instead of backing that up, Wilson-Raybould refused to say anything because of what she says is solicitor-client privilege.
I respect her view.
A day ago, Trudeau said he had full confidence in her, saying they had spoken twice in as many days.
In our system of government, of course, her presence in cabinet should actually speak for itself.
But last night, Wilson-Raybould resigned to the Prime Minister and today confirmed publicly, saying in a letter, "I am aware that many Canadians wish for me to speak on matters that have been in the media over the last week. I am in the process of obtaining advice on the topics that I'm legally permitted to discuss in this matter."
I am surprised and disappointed, and to be honest, don't entirely understand why Jody Wilson-Raybould made the decision she did.
Justin Trudeau is trying to hide the truth with regards to the SNC-Lavalin affair, and his handling of this latest scandal has thrown his government into chaos.
The SNC-Lavalin scandal that wasn't even a controversy a week ago has taken a dramatic turn. Jody Wilson-Raybould, as you saw there, quit Justin Trudeau's front bench. The Ethics Commissioner has now launched an investigation. What will her departure mean for the Liberal government, for Justin Trudeau? Time for a special Tuesday edition of At Issue. Chantal Hébert is in Montreal. Andrew Coyne is in Toronto. Althea Raj is in Ottawa. All of you get special points for braving the snowstorm. So let's start there with a big thank you for doing that. Let's start with whether you think this continues now and how big a threat or a danger, I guess, Jody Wilson-Raybould has become now that she is out of cabinet. Chantal.
I think I'd start by saying that for a lot of Canadians, the spectacle today was a sad spectacle, and it kind of is the day when publicly the Trudeau government lost its innocence. So much hope and so much symbol was vested in Jody Wilson-Raybould becoming the Minister of Justice, Indigenous woman, and now to see the story end in this way. The last time a story that was so close to the bone to a government and a resignation that came about was Lucien Bouchard leaving Brian Mulroney's government. The big difference is I've never read a resignation from a minister that did not give a cause for resigning. So we are a week later still into reading body language and reading silence. I think Ms. Wilson-Raybould worked herself into a box. Either she supported the version of the Prime Minister, or if she did not want to and wanted to eventually say, this is not what happened and I was pressured, then it would have come back to the question, then why did you not resign?
And what do you make, Andrew, of the Prime Minister's claim? And I mean, speak to whatever part you want here, but what did you make of the Prime Minister's claim today that if something was wrong, and if Jody Wilson-Raybould felt at any time something was wrong, she could have put her hand up and said it, and she didn't?
Well, this is a continuation of the strategy that has until now been pursued by his minions behind the scenes and off the record of trying to shift the focus and the blame onto her and have people asking questions about what did she do, what did she say, what did she know, rather than the original allegation, which was that people in his office pressured her to do something quite improper with regard to the prosecution of SNC-Lavalin. So it may or may not pay off for them, but significantly, we are now 5 days later, and we still have not had a direct denial from him on the record that he or his officials pressured her in this matter. Nobody thought to ask him that at this press conference, so he was allowed to get away with this continual attempt to shift the focus and the blame, but that's what's going on.
Althea.
Yeah, the word pressure is one of these words that seems like it can be interpreted in many ways by different people. And he has yet to answer whether or not his office tried to influence Jody Wilson-Raybould, and that she may have interpreted that as pressure, or the prosecution's office may have interpreted that as pressure. But the answer he gave today was clearly an attempt to shift the focus of the discussion to a totally irrelevant topic, in my view, which is not exactly what the allegations are about. And this government is really bad at crisis management. And again, this is one of these examples where the story keeps changing. So how do you believe the government? Even if you want to believe them, how do you believe them?
Let's be clear also about this question about what's pressure and what's just persuasion, et cetera. Public office holders have a higher obligation than merely obeying the law. They have an obligation to carry themselves in the manner that will withstand the closest scrutiny. There's the familiar language in that regard, which means you don't tiptoe up to the edge of these kinds of questions. All the lawyers that I've talked to on this say they should have not gone they should have stayed a million miles away from anything that could even be interpreted as pressure in such a matter as this, particularly with a company like SNC-Lavalin, particularly with the ties that they've had historically with the Liberal Party.
But she is allowed to consult her colleagues. So, the legislation gives her room to have discussions about these issues.
And a debate would be a normal thing, you would hope, at a cabinet table.
Yes.
Chantal, yeah.
Not only would you expect it, but the option to offer a deal to SNC-Lavalin, which came with conditions, is not only a legal option, but if it had been pursued, the government would have had to defend it. The minister would have had to make it public, and presumably the prime minister. It would have been a big decision. So it makes total sense that they would have been talking about this issue, and it would be a surprise and actually kind of remiss of the prime minister and his economic ministers to not look at all the options and explore them. So I understand all this about shifting the focus, and I don't disagree with Andrew on that, but at the end of the day, the only person who can give her take of these events has to be her. And so far, we have not heard a word one way or the other. We are reading body language, and I understand, and I read it the same way as everyone else.
Yes.
But there will be no light on this until she can speak.
Well, and then it's only still her version of what happened. Andrew,
yes, but still.
It's the missing part, for sure, Andrew.
There's a difference between canvassing advice from your cabinet colleagues, which is entirely within her ambit as Attorney General, and the Prime Minister's political staff laying the lumber on her, which is what the allegation was that originally set this story off. So for people to segue again into, well, if she's entitled to consult with her cabinet colleagues, is, I would submit, a little bit beside the point. The other thing is, the thing that makes it perfectly legal, and this is the other half of this whole affair, is this quickie bit of legislation that was inserted on the sly in the omnibus budget bill in 2018, custom designed and retroactively applied to make it easier for SNC-Lavalin to get out of criminal charges in this regard. That's at least as serious a matter, it seems to me, as whether or not there was pressure applied to take away the prosecutorial discretion in this matter.
Except that wasn't hidden. You know what I mean? Like, that was out there. So that's the difference, is it not?
One, it wasn't hidden. Two, it happened on her watch and she was the minister. And three, discussions to introduce that into the criminal code started when the Conservatives were in power. I don't, again, disagree with Andrew's read of the situation. I'm saying it's Andrew's read of the situation for now. That is a construct that so far we don't know. We can't know
then how
until she talks.
Okay, so then let's assume that she will talk. I think the government is assuming she will speak. She will talk to the Supreme Court justice she's hired. She will decide in what capacity she can say more, if only for her reputation or whatever she has to say. How do we then understand at the end of the day, and I'll start with you, Andrew, what actually happened? Because this is still going to be two different versions of events, and I think we're all going to struggle to understand what happened and who do we believe and whether something was wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the implication that the government would like to leave is either that she's confused about the meaning of pressure or that she's lying. And that was one of the subtexts of the Prime Minister's remarks today was there's this inconsistency. She didn't say anything to me, again, as if it was her fault. I agree with you that until and unless we get people speaking under oath, ideally perhaps in a committee hearing or with the Ethics Commission's investigation, it's going to be hard, but not impossible. A lot of these things do rest on that. But again, I come back to this point, is in 5 days, we still don't even have a direct denial from the Prime Minister on this question. That, it seems to me, is at least suggestive.
So Althea, in the next 5 days, I mean, this story could turn 15 times before then. What would you expect from the Prime Minister's office? That they will continue with this narrative, that they will knowingly let this sort of loose cannon former minister just be out there, never knowing when she's going to say something?
Well, I don't think they can control her. They can try to tell her that she's bound by solicitor-client privilege, which the Prime Minister said he's asked his new AG advice on. I think we're all going to be watching what happens at the committee tomorrow. What's interesting about that committee hearing is all the Liberals only have a slight majority, one person, and then the Liberal chair would have to vote. But all these individuals represent swing ridings that in 2011 were held by the Conservatives. And so these individuals will likely have to decide if they want to toe the PMO line and vote against having this sort of partisan show trial, or if they think it's better for their own electoral prospects to vote with the opposition. And so that's going to be very interesting to watch.
I'll end here, but you know, the thing that I find perhaps most surprising is that clearly there was a feeling yesterday that things were okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And something happened between the press conference and when the two of them sat down and she said, finally, I'm not staying. And I don't understand how that could have been misread.
So misunderstood?
Could it be that when the Prime Minister asserted, speaking for her, that since she was in cabinet, that said it all?
I don't know.
Well, I read that transcript yesterday and thought, that sounds really unwise.
Yeah.
It's like going out on a limb and waiting for the person with the saw to saw off the branch.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully he got assurances from her that she intended to stay in cabinet before he went out and said something like that.
Last word to you, Andrew.
Well, his messaging, if I can say, has been off consistently through this. Usually that's because you don't have a very good story to tell when you have to come up with several over several days, and accidents happen as a result.
Okay, everybody, thank you. Thanks for coming in on a snowy Tuesday. I appreciate it. We're still going to have a regular At Issue panel on Thursday. I'm sure everyone's delighted to hear. It's true, the viewers are asking for you today, demanding you. Before we go, be sure to subscribe to the At Issue podcast. Look for it on any iTunes, any major podcast app, our website, cbcnews.ca/thenational.
And up next, rare access to a massive project in central London. Why an army of archaeologists are hard at work moving tens of thousands of skeletons buried below the surface.
I don't think I've ever thought it's creepy. Actually, digging up burial grounds in London isn't that unusual.
It's all about the dignity and respect for the people who are buried in the burial ground, and that's the utmost driver for us here, really.
But first, a look at a story you will see here tomorrow night. The Yellow Vests are heading east this week, bound for Parliament Hill. David Common talks to the people behind the convoy.
Glenn Carrick's oil field fire protection business is hurting. He's watched others go bust. So his protest message is straightforward.
We just believe that Canadians are not happy with the current government, and we need them to listen to what's going on with our oil and gas sector.
The convoy is part of the larger Canadian Yellow Vest movement. Every weekend in communities across Canada, there are protests like this, even in -30, those so committed to their cause.
What are the things you want to be heard on?
We need a government who champions our resources. It's just that simple. I mean, we're such a rich province.
London has a rich recorded history that spans almost 2,000 years. From Roman conquerors to global power, it has evolved into one of the world's most modern cities. But planning for the future sometimes means reckoning with the past. London is now expanding its rail network to meet those future challenges, but British archaeologists must first carefully remove the remains of Londoners who lived long ago, tens of thousands of them. Our Thomas Dagla was given unique access to the site.
A sea of orange on a construction site like no other. This army of archaeologists is unearthing centuries of history so this place can be transformed into a train station for the future.
Because it gives us this amazing chance to learn about our past in a way that we haven't really been able to before.
The first phase of Britain's high-speed 2 rail line will link London to Birmingham, zipping through the 225-kilometer journey in just 49 minutes. The line will start here in the heart of the British capital. The busy Euston Station is being expanded onto a site hidden under this purpose-built tent the size of a soccer stadium. This was once an Anglican burial ground, now part of Britain's biggest ever archaeological dig. Imagine in the 1700s and 1800s, a church stood back there. The richer you were, the closer you were buried to the church. That also meant people with less money could be buried all the way over there. That leaves a huge area to examine and more than 40,000 skeletons to exhume by hand.
I don't think I've ever thought it's creepy. Actually, digging up burial grounds in London isn't that unusual.
Yes, in a city built and rebuilt over 2,000 years, the ground holds plenty of secrets. Turns out London's clay-like earth is good for buried relics, leaving some centuries-old coffins intact and still containing full skeletons. The bones delicately and purposely laid out to be reburied together.
It's all about the dignity and respect for the people who are buried in the burial ground, and that's the utmost driver for us here, really.
Archaeologists knew that renowned Captain Matthew Flinders was buried here, famous for circumnavigating Australia with his beloved cat, Trim. They didn't expect to uncover the breastplate with the name Matthew Flinders still legible. Discoveries aside, some neighbors call the project too disruptive and downright eerie.
Disturbing the dead for no particularly good reason. It's like discovering alcohol in a pub. To discover that these people are buried in this graveyard, we knew they were buried in the graveyard.
The search is on for a place nearby that can hold all these remains. It's a big ask indeed, part of a uniquely huge endeavor. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, London.
Did they find the cat's body too, do you think? The moment up next on The National. Tonight, it's a moment of joy, years in the making.
I know I'm an elderly woman, I shouldn't cry, but I cry like a baby. I just have no place to go, so I don't know what's going to become of me. I really don't.
The first time we met Mildred Sanford and Nancy Inferrera, they were facing an uncertain future. Inferrera is an American, Sanford a Canadian, and they're best friends who'd been living in this trailer in Sanford's hometown of Guysborough, Nova Scotia, when Inferrera's application for permanent residency was rejected. She was ordered to leave the country, and Sanford vowed to go with her. She's showing signs of Alzheimer's and relies on Inferrera for care.
Wherever she'll go, I'll go too.
Now, Inferrera was granted a 3-year temporary resident permit, but they've been living with the fear that it could all be taken away again. Well, they don't have to worry anymore because Inferrera got her permanent residency today, and it's our moment of the day.
I made it. Oh, good. I feel relieved that I don't have to turn around and see who's going to say, well, you're going out of the country right now, you know. Very relaxed. Put my head on the pillow tonight and not worry that this is going to be my last night here. I feel good. You don't have to worry about me leaving anymore. I feel good about her, too. I know she's going to stay now. That was always her worry, crying she'd be left alone. She's more a sister to me now because all my family's gone. I'm the only one left. And she's the only one I got.
So, as well as being very touching, the reason it took so long is, of course, because they're not related. And so it took years. If they had been family or, together, then it would have been a different situation. But because they were just friends, they had to go through this long ordeal so that they could make sure that Inferrera stayed. So, it worked out. But it does go to show you the differences for the immigration system in what your relationship is about.
I think the timing of all of this too, Rosie, is exquisite. 2 days from now is Valentine's Day, so a day when we celebrate kind of traditional relationships. I don't just mean male-female, same-sex as well, but kind of the idea of two people who have an intimate relationship. Sure. And here are two people that have as strong, maybe a stronger bond than some intimate partners. And it's just, you know, we don't usually see that often celebrated the way that we did tonight on the news. So it's just a nice reminder that friendship and closeness and relationships come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes.
That's a nice way to end the show.
That is The National, February the 12th. Good night.
Good night.